Hello and welcome to another edition of Personal Health and Fitness. I'm your host, Chad Marshak. My program today is called Recovery Techniques. And recovery is very important in physical activity. And we spend a lot of time beating up our bodies oftentimes when we exercise, whether it be strength training or running or cycling or just about any type of sport for that matter, and also in everyday life. So it's important to recovery. And we use special tools here at Body Symmetry to help our client base recover from what they're doing to their body on a daily basis. And we like to use foam rollers to do a lot of different soft tissue therapy and or also called myofascial release. And myofascial release basically is a form of soft tissue therapy which is used to treat pain and restriction of motion, okay? Foam rollers typically come in, a full-size foam roller usually comes in a 3-foot length, and they also come in different density formats. So you've got the soft one like so that has a little bit more give. You've got a little bit denser version or intermediate version here. And then if you want to get to the dense stuff, we use sometimes the black foam roller, which is really, really dense and really hard. And also there are foam rollers out there that have a PVC pipe through the middle of it and then the softer foam around it. And this is a little bit different too because the PVC pipe, when you're rolling on it, we call it rolling, elicits a little bit different response. And if you really want to get down and dirty, you can use actual PVC pipe or a tennis ball for that matter for really specific trigger point therapy. And I'll demonstrate what we're going to use all of these tools for here shortly. And then they also make a myofascial release ball or a small foam roller ball, which is a really nice tool if you kind of want to get into some of the small areas of your body. So I'm going to demonstrate how we use all of these tools. And really, any of these tools, any of these foam rollers, PVC pipe, the myofascial release ball, and the tennis ball can be used from your fingernails to your toenails, all right? So everywhere for that matter. So we're going to kind of start off with, I'm going to start with my lower body and work up through my upper body, and I'm going to show you how we use this for recovery. And really what we're trying to address is get into these trigger points. We're really trying to lengthen the tissue that becomes tight. Your fascia, which is one of the areas that we're really trying to address as well as your muscle, if you've ever noticed, say, a spider web, if you've seen a spider walking on a spider web, you've got this thick webbing. And if you've ever tried to knock a spider web down, it's kind of sticky, and you can't imagine oftentimes with a really strong wind why it's still staying there. Well, your body really has this fascia system that runs through your entire body that helps to kind of protect your organs, surrounds muscles and joints. That kind of interpenetrates the entire body. I love that word, interpenetrates, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So I've had several surgeons I've worked with over the years, and I've actually asked them, what's it look like when you cut into someone and you have to kind of get through the fascia? And they said, it's like a spider web. It's everywhere. You have to kind of get to it. It can be really fibrous and dense. In certain areas of the body and other areas, you can just kind of peel away with your fingers. So that's an important area that we need to address. And oftentimes this fascia becomes very fibrous and hard in certain areas of the body, especially along the lateral aspect of the thigh. Your lats can become really tight, and you need to release that area. You can do specific stretches, but we also like to do the soft tissue work, this myofascial release techniques that I'm going to demonstrate using foam rollers. So these are really inexpensive tools that you can use to help do this soft tissue therapy in lieu of going to a massage therapist, or in addition to going to seeing a myofascial worker, a soft tissue provider, a massage therapist. You can use these on yourself, okay? So I'm going to demonstrate some of the basic things you can do. Now, most runners that we've encountered here, or I've encountered over the last 20 years, oftentimes have really tight IT bands, tight calves. Oftentimes they have issues with plantar fasciitis in their feet. And you can actually do a lot of good with these babies. So we're going to start off with our calves. So you're going to take the foam roller, place it on the floor, and you need, again, if you have the opportunity, say in a club, to experiment with different types of foam rollers, find the density that best suits you. If If you need something that's a little bit softer because you're a little more sensitive, that's fine. I've actually thrown really tough athletes on foam rollers before, and I've seen a couple of tears just about start trickling from their eyes. So it can be very painful. Don't be afraid of the pain because you can kind of figure out ways to ease into it where it's not quite so painful. That's still going to give you good results. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do, this is a real easy one. You can place both of your calves on the foam roller, and really what you're trying to do is find these little knots in your body, these little trigger points. If you've ever felt a knot in your neck or your trapezius, that's oftentimes people find those throughout their entire body. We're really trying to identify those really knotty areas, those hard spots, those trigger points, which is kind of a small patch of fascia or muscle tissue that's in spasm. And we're trying to lengthen that to normalize the tissue. We're trying to bring new blood to the area, kind of flush away those toxins that happen to accumulate there, and normalize the length of the tissue. So I'm going to place my calves here on the foam roller, and you can either elevate yourself by pressing your hands on the ground and lifting your hips up slightly. And again, you're just trying to search for those little trigger points. You can certainly do both legs at one time or one at a time. Oftentimes I like to pick on one area at a time. So I'm picking on my right calf, and I feel a nice little trigger point there, and I just let my weight, gravity and the weight of my leg here, press into the foam roller. And typically I want to keep it on that spot for about 20 to 45 seconds roughly, and that will help until you feel kind of a lessening, the pain decreasing slightly. And then I'll roll over it a couple times to find any other little sore spots. Now, if I want to make that a little bit, the pain or a little bit harder pressure, I take my other leg, I drape it over the top, and I push down slightly. A lot of people have really tight calves and a lot of trigger points in their calves, so this may be painful for some people. Again, you can decrease or increase the pressure depending on what you can tolerate. So really what we're doing throughout our entire body, we're on a seek and destroy mission. We're trying to find these little hot spots, these little trigger points that elicit pain, and just simply nail them. And I'm kind of used to the pain. Pain doesn't bother me so much anymore. But you'll notice that when you're done working on, say, on a particular area of the body, after you spend a few minutes, that area feels almost alive. It's almost like you've got a little bit more range of motion. It's just a really good tool. Okay, so that's our calves. Okay, next I'm going to work on our perineals, which run on the side of our calf here. And for this one, you're going to lie on your side and stack your legs like so. You have to have a reasonable degree of upper body strength in order to do this. And I'm just going to run up and down the side of my shin here. And you'll see me kind of move a little bit. And really what I'm trying to do is change the angle ever so slightly. And you really have to pay attention here as far as manipulating the position of your body. It's somewhat tricky sometimes because just by changing the angle a couple of degrees, you may discover a hot spot or a trigger point. And again, when you discover that trigger point, the general rule of thumb is you want to apply pressure to that area for 20 to 45 seconds. I'm going to get my left side here real quick and give you kind of an idea from the front angle. Okay, there's a hot spot right there. I'm kind of rolling back, and I'm just going to let my gravity and the weight of my legs do their thing. Sometimes maybe I'll just go over it, almost like a rolling pin if you're rolling out, if you've ever made bread. I'm just trying to roll out that little spot there. Okay, so the next part for my lower extremity, I'm going to get my anterior tibialis, which are the muscles that are in front of my shin. And a lot of people out there, they've had shin splints before. If you've ever had shin splints, you know how painful they can be. This is a great way to help alleviate that discomfort. Oftentimes those muscles become, the fascial structure becomes kind of tight, and that area becomes sore. And you can use the foam roller for that. And you can do this, typically you have to do one at a time because you don't want to be right on top of your shin. You want to roll a little bit more to the outside, the lateral aspect of your shin, to find those anterior muscles. And you can see the body position that I'm in. I'm just placing my hands on the floor. I'm rolling back and forth. And once you find a spot, then just let your body weight, again, and gravity do its thing. Okay, so I've got my calf, my peroneals, my anterior tibialis. Again, that's from my knee down to my ankle, all right? Next, I'm going to hit my IT band. Now, your IT band is very problematic for a lot of, especially a lot of runners, a lot of athletes that are on their feet, which most people. I've even had non-runners too, just everyday people that have issues related to their knee tracking properly. This IT band runs down the lateral aspect of your leg, originates up here in the hip and attaches right below your kneecap, okay? So it's a very thick band here that runs down the side of your leg. And what you're going to do for this one is you're going to lie on your side. And I like to stack. You can either do one of two ways. You can stack your legs like so, or you can place one leg over the other. And so typically I start down at my knee, all right, and then I'm going to work slowly all the way up to my hip. Now, along the way, if I discover any tight areas again, I'm just going to nail that for about 20 to 45 seconds. For many people, this is the most painful area to address in the human body. Not for everyone, but a lot of people are so tight, this band becomes so tight and restricted that it can be very painful when you're rolling. So, for those of you who cannot bear this, then you want to make sure that you find a roller that's density is soft enough to allow you to do this safely. For example, this particular roller, you can see here, I can press into it. It has a lot more give. If you're on this rolling out your IT band, it's not nearly going to be as painful as using this one. If you see I press in, I can't press very far. Or if you find a really dense black roller, there's really very little give here. So again, experiment with the roller that best suits your needs and your ability to tolerate discomfort. Again, very important to manipulate rotating your thigh in or out slightly. So you're going to have these little tweaks where you roll your thigh in or out slightly to find, again, those trigger points, those hot spots. You can let's see if you can pick this up here. I'm going to roll forward maybe a little bit. I feel a little bit more here versus back here. So again, don't be afraid to change your body position ever so slightly. You're going to have to do that everywhere to find those little hot spots. I've had people, they've demonstrated for me before, I can't find anything. And then I'll grab their leg and manipulate them a couple of degrees, and they're like, okay, I feel it now. Okay, the next area we're going to hit is your glute medius here in your butt, your external hip rotators. This is another area that people have a lot of problems with. Now, oftentimes, back issues are related to the fascial system here in your butt, too. So this is a really good tool to help address that area. So you can do it one of two ways. What I try to do is I'll place my butt cheek, the side of my glute, right here on the foam roller and go back and forth. A lot of people, this is probably the second area in the body where people have a lot of pain in their hip. So you can do it with your legs straight like so. Those external rotators on runners, again, especially, I'm not picking on runners, but it seems like runners have a lot of problems with their lower extremity. You can use it, again, to help alleviate discomfort there. The other technique that I like to use is crossing the leg. So placing the ankle up on the knee, like so, is going to expose those hip muscles a little bit more, those those external hip rotators a little bit more. It's going to expose your piriformis a little bit more. And people have heard of piriformis syndrome. And oftentimes in physical therapy, they use foam rollers just for this problem. I feel that a little bit. I worked legs pretty hard a couple days ago. My glutes are still destroyed. That's a good one right there. All right. Okay, so the next area we're going to hit is the quads. Quads on the front. A lot of people will stretch their quads like so, which is great. But I tell you what, try the foam roller on your quads if you have tight quads. And I like to work, again, all over the place. And I'll work all the way up into my hip flexor region. And a lot of people are often prone to tight hip flexors. And this is a great tool to really help with that area. My issues with my hip flexors are a little bit more laterally displaced instead of straight on. Again, if you want, you can do both quads at the same time or one at a time. So what I like to do is like pick one leg up in the air slightly, and then I'll just work back and forth. So if I want to get up a little bit higher in the hip flexor region, maybe I'll push the foam roller over a little bit so I can get one leg up. So I'll drive my knee up towards my shoulder a little bit more. That allows me to kind of get my groin out of the way. A little sore right through here. Okay, good. Speaking of groin, a lot of people have very tight adductor muscles, which is your groin. In order to address that area, you kind of have to manipulate the roller in a little bit of a funky position to get the inner thigh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place one leg like so. And I can definitely get my inner thigh here. So you need to be a little bit creative with your body positioning and find out what works best for you, especially like on the groin. So I may drive my knee or my leg that's on the foam roller up and flex my knee slightly. There's no right or wrong way. It's, again, just trying to find those spots, especially in the groin region, by kind of tweaking your body position to get to those deep spots. Some people are tighter up high, some lower towards the knee, so it really depends on where you have your issues. Okay, hamstrings, last area for the legs we're going to do. A lot of people have very tight hamstrings, and this is a nice way, this is, for me, is just a real feel-good kind of myofascial release technique. And I just like to place usually just one leg at a time. I'll keep my other leg bent to get my hamstring. Now, whether you're tighter on the lateral aspect or the medial aspect, the inner thigh, kind of depends. So what you want to do is you want to turn your foot, kind of manipulate the position of your foot, almost like a windshield wiper. If you turn your foot out, you're going to get a little bit more of the lateral aspect of the hamstring. If you turn your foot in, you're going to get more of the inner hamstring, where I'm a little bit tighter today, actually. A little sore through here. And again, work all the way up and down behind your knee, all the way up to where your hamstrings tie into your glutes. Okay. For my lower extremity, we'll get to the foot if I have a little bit of time left. The next thing I want to do is talk about your upper extremity. Your back is a big area that I think the foam roller really helps. And even though this is a direct, this next exercise is really for the thoracic spine, for the middle back. A lot of people have that kyphotic appearance as they get older, especially a lot of athletes that spend a lot of time upright driving their arms, whether they be running, people that jog a lot, or track athletes, sprinters, basketball players, oftentimes develop a little bit of a rounded back. This is foam roller work here on your middle back will help to really lengthen or extend your thoracic spine. And what I like to do is place my hands behind my head, and I'll start working between my shoulder blades. The foam roller positioned directly beneath your shoulder blades with your elbows back. And I'm going to work from, which is about mid-back range, down to your 12th thoracic vertebrae, which is about right here. And then I'll just go back and forth with my butt slightly raised off the ground. This really helps to get those muscles that also run parallel to the spine, your paraspinal muscles. And then after a few, maybe 10, 15 times back and forth, I'll drop my butt to the ground. The foam roller's just directly beneath my shoulder blades, head in a neutral position, and I'll lean back as far as I can. This will really help to open up your mid-back. So again, the show today is recovery techniques, and this is a great way to help normalize your thoracic spine, giving you a little bit more thoracic extension. If you've done activities that bring your spine forward into kind of a semi-kyphotic position. Okay, the next area that's really tight on a lot of people, your lats and your teres minor. So lats, really big culprit as far as becoming tight. And this is a great tool, again, to help with that area. What you're going to do is you're going to place the roller kind of in your armpit, like so. And you're going to reach up towards, away from you, and just roll over. Try to find, again, any little tight spots in your lats. Your lats are a really big muscle group, so they go down. They insert pretty low. Not too bad here today. But usually when I get into my armpit area, the posterior part of my shoulder sometimes becomes sore. Again, I'll just apply pressure in that area and try to find those positions. You need to roll forward or back. Find the meat of the lat. Okay, and the other area that I want to show you here for the back, more the lower back, the thoracolumbar fascia, which is right through here. Oftentimes, it's a really problematic area for people that do a lot of seating, or rather, they're in a seated position. If you're seated all the time, your hip flexors become dysfunctional. If you're seated at a computer a lot, reaching forward a lot, this thoracolumbar fascia here can become really tight. You know, massage therapists typically have a heyday with this area when they really press on it and find the trigger points. But you want to kind of offset your body to the right or the left, like so. Not in the middle part of your back to find any of the tight areas there. Again, just apply pressure. Once you find a really tight area that feels good, or feels bad for that matter, and let gravity and your body weight do its trick. Okay, the small foam roller ball, the myofascial ball, is a little bit more specific to really small areas in your back or your hip. And you would use it similarly to a regular size foam roller. Just place it, again, if I want to do the thoracolumbar fascia here, just find those spots in your lower back. You can put, again, what's cool about the foam ball, it rolls in 360 degrees. So you can really kind of find, it's a little easier to maneuver on this compared to the foam roller, the regular size foam roller. If I find a spot here, I may lie back a little bit more, extend my spine. I can really feel that there in my lower back. Tennis ball. The tennis ball is also a good tool, especially like for the glutes and also areas in the back. You can use it to do really pinpoint areas, that are really sore. Again, because the ball is a little bit easier, it rolls easier. If I find a sore spot, right there on my hip, right there on my glute, and I'll just allow my body weight to press into the ball. So the ball is really on that trigger point now, pushing into the trigger point, again, bringing circulation to that area to help normalize that tissue. That's a little painful today for me. Again, use the tennis ball for your back as well, just like you can with the smaller ball. All right, and the last area that I want to address is for your feet. Plantar fasciitis is everywhere. All right, and we really overlook our feet. So a couple of cool little tricks to the trade here. You can use a tennis ball to find any little sore spots. And what I do is I'll just, my bare foot or even with a sock on is fine. I'll apply pressure to any little sore spots. Just roll it up and down the foot. You can, even underneath the toes is fine, but it's usually in the arch that's problematic, all right? So if you've ever had plantar fasciitis, it's very painful. Typically in the mornings, you can't even hardly walk. Oftentimes it loosens up. But the tennis ball really does wonders. Another really cool trick, if you have a cold pop can, you can take a cold pop can, place it on the ground, and put your foot on that. So the combination of the cold and the movement back and forth really does a nice job at alleviating any discomfort in the foot. The other tool that you can use here this is just a PVC pipe. And it's really hard, so maybe you can't put, some people might not be able to put a ton of pressure on the bottom of their foot. But I'll just roll my foot back and forth over it. Sometimes more my inner portion of my arch is sore. So you can just kind of, again, tweak the position of your foot, turning it ever so slightly to the right or to the left. Again, you're on a seek and destroy mission. You want to try to find any little sore spots. Once you find it, apply pressure for 10 to 45 seconds, then roll over it a few times, and then move on to the next spot. Remember, the benefits using foam roller doing this myofascial work is going to help increase circulation and help normalize tissue. So self-massage. These are all good recovery techniques that we use with everyday people. Hope you enjoyed the program today. Thanks again for joining me on another edition of Personal Health and Fitness. Until next time, I'm your host, Chad Marshak. Hey, Quinn and Riley.